The game of the week turns into the Bills running away with it. Josh Allen finishes 21 of 25 for 320, 4 touchdowns, a perfect passer rating. Not just because of him, though, because, well, the Dolphins' defense was bad, and Stephon Diggs was out of his mind in this one. Turns a little hitch route into a 55-yard touchdown. Great routes on the goal line. Scores 3 touchdowns, Diggs. But Buffalo not only slows down Miami's offense, but just unstoppable on the offensive side of the ball themselves. And look, Buffalo's 3-1 now, and they really are a couple Josh Allen YOLO balls opening night, Monday Night Football, a couple YOLO balls away from being, I'd say, the consensus top team when it comes to the all-important power rankings. So, look, impressive win for Buffalo.
It was, yeah, and it started off, the way everybody was expecting this game to go, just a giant shootout. Like, at one point, it looked like this was going to be the next, the Rams-Chiefs game, 55-51 or whatever that ended up being, just ridiculous Arena League game where nobody was playing any kind of defense. It looked for a while like that was how this game was going to go. Both teams scored quick touchdowns. I think the first 5 drives collectively were touchdowns. And then Buffalo started getting some stops. And all of a sudden, they weren't stopped. They kept scoring. But Miami's offense finally met resistance for the first time in this season. Buffalo found some answers to that defense and eventually ended up running away with it reasonably comfortably. But that was an impressive game from Buffalo top to bottom. I guess the one big negative coming out of it is Tre'Davious White popped his Achilles.
Yeah, that's bad, man. It's sad for Tre'Davious White, who's dealt with some injuries. The Bills at one point, I don't know if somebody came back. The broadcast said they were down to their last 2 boundary corners, outside corners. By the way, is that a new thing for just outside corners to be called boundary corners? I have avoided this because the boundary corner is a different definition in college football. It doesn't mean outside. It means the short side of the field.
Yeah.
I don't use the word boundary for outside corners. I just say outside.
I use perimeter.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
But it seems like everybody uses boundary for non-slot corners, and I don't like that.
Right. It's difficult because there is
a field and a boundary. Even in an NFL game, you can say the short side of the field is the boundary, and the wide side is the field.
It is.
So I don't like saying that.
It is awkward because there's no agreed upon, this is what we call that guy. I use perimeter. Outside corner works. Yeah, I agree. Boundary's not good because that's a different thing, albeit at a different level of the game, but still.
So a couple of things that stood out here, when you watch some of the film, hypothetically, if you have access to that at this point, the Dolphins were cooking early, right? Bunch of quick hitters.
Yeah.
There was even a throw up to Raheem Mostert right in between double coverage. I thought it was a great throw by Tua, but Raheem Mostert's going up and mossing people within double coverage. It's like, man, the Dolphins, they're doing everything right. But there was definitely a point where Buffalo did a nice job sitting. They were taking away first reads, which, again, I don't know how you do that tactically other than just being good, right? Just take away the first read. All right, well, tell Denver. They should have done that. But Buffalo did a nice job taking away the first read. They were crowding the middle of the field. And anytime there was a solo, not anytime, but a lot of times when there was the solo receiver, you would have a Tre'Davious White pressing Tyreek Hill. So one of the Tua ends up getting sacked 4 times. He'd only been sacked once coming into the game, right? And some of them were late, but the press coverage on Tyreek Hill was helping the pass rush get there. That happened a few times in this game where they just did a really good job just throwing off the timing. And I think that's oversimplification sometimes. Hey, when you're going up against this great offense, just throw off their timing. But Buffalo executed it really well. And, Tua was late. He should have thrown a pick 6. The Tre'Davious White dropped. They took away a lot of the stuff that Miami was doing extremely well.
I think one of the things that Buffalo's defense does anyway that happens to be very effective against Miami is the way they deploy their safeties. This has always been a very safety-friendly scheme, but also cornerback-friendly scheme because of the safeties. In a weird way, the entire secondary works in concert quite well in a way that none of them are actually ever thrown out on an island and exposed badly. But a lot of it has to do with where exactly they deploy those safeties, which ends up being right in the area of the field that makes the picture a bit muddy for Miami. So when you look at what the Dolphins have been doing, certainly this season so far, the middle of the field, everything is wide the hell open because the safeties are all over the place. One guy's been dragged somewhere else. One guy's playing deep, and now it's just like there's empty space everywhere. Whereas against Buffalo, that's right where like Micah Hyde, resides all the time. So they're kind of automatically positioned anyway, pre-positioned where the problems are going to be, and that just they were able to, I think, have a really big effect on that Miami offense just by alignment, and Miami never really found a counter to get them out of that space. The one thing that stood out in this game, in addition to being just one of the best weapons in the NFL period, Tyreek Hill, I think, is comfortably the best decoy in the NFL. Like, this is part of why the short motion and all the different alignments for him is so brilliant, is because he's already a problem, and now you're actually increasing the problem by he might not be the target. But now you have to panic because, oh, crap, he's lined up somewhere stupid, or he's in short motion, he's got a running start, and now like everyone runs in his direction and just opens up a yawning chasm somewhere else. Like the Devin Achane, is that what we're going with now?
Achane is what he said this week.
Right, yeah. Achane. The Devin Achane touchdown where Tyreek Hill lined up at running back, right? And the entire defense like panics. It's like, oh no. They move him, they fake in one direction and then end around to Achane, and it's so wide open because the entire defense is flowed towards where Tyreek Hill is. His threat as a decoy, I think, is genuinely spectacular.
Joey 2 times in the chat says, well, PFF's waking up early. No. This isn't new. We actually started late. Right. We're always here at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Tell your friends that we're here reviewing the games live on YouTube. So, yeah, look, I thought Buffalo made a statement. I know this is their home game against Miami, right? They still have to go to Miami later in the year. But Buffalo, and we'll see what they do without Tre'Davious White. It is a torn Achilles. It's very unfortunate. But, yeah, Buffalo, their linebackers were, Matt Milano's a stud, but their linebackers were a big question coming in. Terrell Bernard's been playing some great football. Matt Milano doing his thing. And the Bills are deep from a defensive line standpoint. I don't think Buffalo goes out there and dominates on the defensive line, but they are probably the best defense in the league at meshing that coverage in front and taking advantage of things. They also, again, when Tua was sacked, again, one was late, but they just timed up a blitz and freed up Gregory Rousseau as a rusher. They just do some really good things to make life difficult for opposing quarterbacks.
Stephon Diggs was victimizing poor Kader Kohu during that game.
The touchdown on the goal line.
Yeah, they're right on the goal line. There was a touchdown where he beat him like three or four separate times in the one play to run and get a touchdown at the end of it. I mean, he was just wrecking that poor guy for the majority of the game. The Bills also had this whole world now of double cheek push, which there seems to have been a collective renaming of during the week to the brotherly shove. Was that what they're calling it?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, but everyone was using it this week randomly.
I mean, tush push, you were double cheek push.
Right. It's like a memo went out. Hey, guys, by the way, we've renamed this. Anyway, the Bills had an interesting variant. Did you see this? They did it by mistake. But it might actually be a really smart thing to do, particularly if you've got a strong quarterback. They basically ran like a sort of option look inside zone, handoff thing. Running back goes up the middle. You hand it off, and then the quarterback just follows him and shoves him from behind. So it's an inside zone run as normal, but then your 250-pound quarterback follows it up and just launches into the back and shoves him over the pile. Washington did it as well, I think, again, by mistake. But randomly in the same week, 2 different teams ended up kind of creating this weird variant of, well, if shoving from behind is actually allowed, let's use that.